To Paladin Financial Talk. I'm your host, Jeff Quick, and I'm joined here today by my co host, Mr. Tony Shore. How are you today, Tony?
Jeff, I am doing great. I
I-
couldn't be better. If I was any better, my name would be Jeff Foley. Let's put it that way.
All right, fair enough. Fair enough.
All right. Yeah, I'm doing great. How about you?
I'm doing fine. I'm actually heading down to Gustavus on Saturday for my daughter's college graduation.
Wow, that's my wife's alma mater,
Yeah,
Gustavus Adolphus.
you are correct. Yeah, it's been great. She's really enjoyed it. So looking forward to celebrating on Saturday.
My wife loved going to school there. She really likes that school in that town. So yeah, she's a Gusty. So your daughter's a Gusty, huh?
She is.
What's her major?
Political science.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yes, with plans to attend law school.
Wow,
Yeah.
impressive.
Yeah.
Does she know where she's going yet?
She wants to go to St. Thomas.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So she'll be studying for the LSAT, all
Sure.
that fun stuff, applying to law school over the summer, and we'll see what happens. Yeah.
Excellent. Well, you've got to be a proud papa, right?
I am, absolutely.
That's great. And my daughter, my middle daughter, goes to St. Thomas. Yeah. The 4-year school, not the grad school for law, but yeah, she's going for business.
Sure. Yeah. Great school.
Yeah.
All the MIAC schools are awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. That's true. They really are, I think. So today you've got a great topic for us. I like this one. We're going to talk a little bit about estate planning, a little bit about charitable giving. Where do you want to begin on this topic?
Yeah. I mean, this will be a kind of a 10,000-foot view on it, but I want to cover some of the main points and things people should, look out for. I mean, the first thing I would say is, whether you have an estate plan, Tony, or whether you don't have an estate plan, you have an estate plan, right?
Right.
Not having a plan is a plan.
Yeah.
It means you plan to go through probate, right? It might not be a good plan, but either way, you do have a plan.
Right. And if you don't make a plan on your own, they're going to make one for you.
That is correct.
And it's going to be lengthy and costly and probably leave your loved ones in a bad situation, right?
It could, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So there's definitely some things, that you want to look out for.
Cool. Well, I think that's a good point to make. A lot of people put this off, right?
Yes.
They put off end of life planning. Nobody wants to think about it, especially when we're in our 30s, 40s, 50s. Nobody's, we're putting it off, and people put it off too long, right? I mean, and then you end up like Aretha Franklin or Prince. They died without any type of a plan in place.
Correct. Right? Which is amazing, right? People that have the financial resources to put together a plan still don't do it.
Right.
Right. For lots of reasons. People are busy. I mean, who has time, to do an estate plan when you're busy working, running around, chasing kids, whatever else you're into,
true.
Right? It does take time, but it's definitely worth it in the long run, I would say. The main thing, Tony, if we just talk in general, what is an estate plan? In general, the goal really is just to make sure that your assets you've worked so hard to accumulate, right? Number one, go to the people you want them to go to, right? We want to get them there as quickly as possible in a tax efficient manner, right? Make sure that everything you work so hard to accumulate all these years goes to the people you want it to go to, gets there as efficiently as possible, so you can transfer as much of that to your loved one and beneficiaries as possible.
Yeah, that's a good point. And that's the goal. And I think another goal is family harmony. By doing this and having a plan in place, after you're gone, you maintain family harmony, because I went through this, Jeff, with my grandfather when he passed. His 4 kids, my dad and his 2 brothers and sisters, they all got along great, tight-knit family, grew up together, everybody very loving and caring. My grandfather died, had not communicated to all of them equally, only really one who, and nobody really knew what was going on. He had a will, but it was somewhat confusing. And now there are 2 members of that group, 2 siblings aren't even speaking to each other.
Sure. Yeah, I hear similar stories all the time. I mean, my family's experienced similar things as well. No matter how long somebody or how well somebody's getting along at a certain point in time, you never know what the future holds, right? What people's individual financial circumstances may be,
right,
that alter, their normal course of actions, right? When people are desperate, need things, there's assets available, money does change dynamics, or it can.
Unfortunately, but if you do proper communication ahead of time and planning, you can maintain family harmony, right? Isn't that one of the key reasons to do this?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, the last aspect of that, right? Make sure your assets go where you want them to go, get them there as efficiently as possible. And then a big part of that is minimizing the emotional impact on your family and loved ones as well, which
Sure.
there are tools to help do that also. So we'll talk about some of
Okay.
those. There's really a couple of things that in general everybody should have. Number one, make sure your beneficiary forms for all of your assets are filled out correctly. Your deeds are taken care of, right? Maybe a deed on the home, on vehicles. Make sure you're payable on death accounts, your bank accounts, and so forth. They're set up appropriately. That will avoid a lot of this just in general. Everybody should have a will. For some people, they should also take it to the next level and have a trust, right? Power of attorney. And as we talked about family and just maintaining that, the other piece is having a healthcare directive in place so your loved ones in a time of tragedy don't have to make emotional decisions they may not be capable of at that time. So to relieve them of that burden is important as well.
Right. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. And a lot of people just don't end up doing that, or don't understand those things. But you're right. Beneficiary designations are huge because they take precedent over the will. And sometimes people have life changes, whether it's marriages, deaths, divorce. And if you don't update those beneficiaries and
Correct.
something happens, that could cause a real problem, couldn't it?
Absolutely. And we see that in this industry all the time as
Yeah.
well. We have clients come to us that have inherited assets that aren't happy about it, right? Something didn't go quite as they had planned. So lots of things do come up. And probably the biggest question I get, Tony, from clients oftentimes is, do I need a trust? Do I need a will? What's the difference? So I want to touch on a few differences between trusts and wills and what they accomplish.
Sure.
Number one, the thing most people want to do is avoid probate. That's the number one reason people get a trust, right? So assets in a trust generally will avoid probate, which is costly, can be a lengthy, time-consuming process as well. So it helps speed up the distribution of your assets. Whereas a will, the assets are distributed through a will, typically go through probate, right?
Which is court, which is
probate court,
which
correct.
is costly and time consuming for your loved ones, right?
That's correct.
Yeah.
The other big thing and the difference between the two is privacy. I mean, Tony, would you like your neighbors to know how much money you leave behind and who you give it to?
No.
No, exactly. Anytime you go through probate court, those documents become public record, right? So anybody can access them, find out how much money you had, your assets, who you left them to. It also can create a situation where maybe there are people looking to collect money from your beneficiaries. They know little Johnny or little Susie just inherited $500,000.
Right.
And oh, by the way, they owe ABC creditor, $100,000. Now that creditor can go after them because they've, inherited these assets and try and collect that again, to the detriment of your own legacy.
Yeah.
So by having a trust is private. Nobody will know what you had or who received it. It also provides creditor protection for your beneficiaries for those trust-based assets. So privacy is big as well.
Sure. Obviously, that's a big part of it. And trusts, so they can help prevent probate, bypass probate, and they're private.
Right? It also gives you a lot more control over those assets, how they're distributed, when they're distributed. You can put certain stipulations on how somebody can gain access to the assets you leave behind, where a will is a little different. There's not a lot of control over how they're distributed. So a trust can help in a situation like that as well. Maybe somebody, you don't want them to get a lump sum distribution. Maybe they're spendthrift.
Right.
There could be addiction problems. Any number of things could be a reason to distribute those assets in a more specific, detailed manner.
Right.
Yeah. The other one, of course, right? Estate taxes are big, right?
By the tax implications.
100%. Trust can definitely help and be structured to minimize the taxation of your estate when it passes on to your beneficiaries. A will does not accomplish the same thing. Really, all a will is a set of instructions or wishes for the probate court.
Oh, sure. And that makes sense. And people think a will is the end all be all document, but it's really just instructions for probate court, like you say.
Correct.
Right. And that's, again, where a trust would be very beneficial. Well, it could be beneficial depending on your situation.
100%. Trust assets will avoid probate. If you have a trust, there's also typically a will included. And that's just kind of a catch-all for anything that maybe didn't get included in the trust, which can happen. Example would be you go to your banker and you say, hey, I want to change my payable on death to list my trust on this document. Banker, let's just say they put it on their desk. They plan to get to it later. For whatever reason, maybe that doesn't get processed. You think it's part of your estate or your trust, and it's not. So that will would be a catch-all directing the probate court to put everything through your trust, again, to make sure it's distributed, protected, all the stuff we talked about earlier. So
sure.
Yeah, a lot of other benefits as well, Tony. Obviously, everybody's situation is unique. So I highly encourage everybody to speak with a financial professional, estate planning attorney, tax professional as well. And ideally, all three of these individuals are working together to ensure your estate transfers in the most financially profitable means possible for you and your loved ones.
And that's what Paladin does, correct, Jeff? I mean, you work closely with CP tax professionals, and I know there's an estate planning attorney. I met with him myself.
Yes.
That you work closely with, and a lot of your clients work with, and you're all in communication about this, how to get those trusts funded, right?
Yep, 100%. And that's really the key. We do have professionals available for our clients that we work with and we recommend. We also know that a lot of our clients have advisors they're working with, CPAs, tax experts, estate planning attorneys. We at least want to have a relationship with them to make sure we're all on the same page.
Sure.
And doing what's in that client's best interest.
Yeah. I mean, your clients don't have to go through the people you recommend or work with every day, but you do want to work alongside them and make sure that everybody's on the same page, is what you're saying.
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
That's great.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's kind of the big picture on trusts, wills, overall estate planning. Now, we did have a second topic today, Tony.
Right? All right.
Do you remember what it is?
Charitable giving.
Charitable giving.
Charitable giving.
Correct. So let's touch base on that one just a little bit. Lots of ways to distribute assets, right? Some can have some benefits for the donor as well as the donee. So there's a lot of things that can be done. Straightforward, simple way: gift cash, right? Give away cash, write a check out to your favorite charity, tax deductible.
Sure.
Benefit for you, right? Benefit for the charity as well. So there's a lot of different ways you can do that. Obviously, if you're not filing your taxes and doing the itemization. Thank you, Tony.
Yeah.
If you're just taking the standard deduction, that may not be a benefit for you, but something to look into and consider as well.
For sure, because I know a lot of people have charities that they care about, and if they have extra money or don't have a lot of family to leave it to, or that they give to on a regular basis, or grandkids they want to put through college, they'll give it to a charity or a church. And I know a lot of people give regularly. Yes. Maybe on a monthly or a yearly basis to a church. And so that's also tax deductible if you're giving it to a nonprofit organization, right?
Correct.
But you have to itemize, is what you're saying.
You have to itemize to take advantage of that. Yeah. Yes. So there's other things you can do as well. One of the most popular ways and most recently is a DAF, or a donor advised fund. So this is a fund that allows you to gift assets to it at any time and take the deduction. And you do not have to necessarily make decisions on how you distribute those assets or which charity they're going to go to at that time. So
interesting.
So if I'm in a tax situation, or you are at the end of the year, Tony, and you're looking for some deductions, you want to make charitable gifts, but you don't necessarily have a charity at that time, you can put that into the donor advised fund, right? It can be invested over this time, earn more on it as well. And at some date in the future, if you decide you want to make a gift to a qualified charity, you can do that at that time. But you receive the tax benefit as soon as you put the assets into that donor advised fund.
But I would imagine, so that's what do they call that? A DAF,
Yep.
donor advised fund.
Correct.
I would imagine if I put some money into a donor advised fund to get the tax break now, or the itemization or the write-off now, I can't take that money back out and not donate it. Once it's in there, it's got to go to a charity at some point, right?
100%. Once it's in there, it's gone.
Yeah,
it's out of your estate.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Just curious.
You do have control over it, though, as far as how it's invested and so
Sure.
forth. You can make decisions there.
Yeah, I wasn't aware of that one personally, to be honest. I've
Yeah.
never utilized that. So
yeah, we talked about trusts, right? There's many
Yep.
different kinds of trusts.
yeah.
CRT, Charitable Remainder Trust, is one.
So you can set up a trust for a charity.
Correct.
Okay.
Right. So this is one where oftentimes it'll allow the donor to receive a stream of income, right, off of the gift. And then at the end of a certain period of time, depending how it's structured, that gift then goes to the charity. So it's gifted to the charity. You can earn interest and income off of it as the donor over a certain period of time, and then it becomes a charitable gift.
Wow. Okay.
So there's a couple different things you can do.
Wow. Interesting. And I know with charitable giving, I know that a lot of financial advisors, and I think even on the show, we've talked about qualified charitable distributions from a traditional IRA. Once you reach a certain age, you can do direct transfers of that money you have to take out, your required minimum distribution, instead of taking that and having to pay taxes. So, but before you reach that age, I don't think we've ever talked about this on the show, just charitable giving in general like this.
Yeah, may not have. And, it's like you're reading my mind, Tony. You're going to have to become the host and I'll be the co-host next time.
No, I'm not trying to step on your toes.
You led right into the next topic.
It made me think of that because that's come up before.
Yeah. So you do get into a situation, right? For most people, RMDs now are going to begin at age 73. Sure. For some people, they're fortunate enough not to need those RMDs to, support themselves during retirement, but they're forced to take them anyways. So that's an opportunity, as you stated, to make a qualified charitable distribution. So let's say you're required to take out $20,000 from your retirement accounts that you don't need. You can turn around and instead of taking that $20,000, paying, let's say 25% income tax on it.
Yeah, because they make you take taxes on it when you pull it out, and they force you to take it out.
Correct. So now you have $15,000 that you could then turn around and donate to a charity, right? If you do a qualified charitable distribution, you can get credit for the entire $20,000 as a tax deduction, right, to the charity, and the charity receives $20,000 tax-free. So
you never have to pay money on that. You put it in tax-free, and it gets, if you do it right and do the qualified charitable distribution you're talking about,
yes.
You're saying if you have that done directly from your IRA to a charity or church of your choice,
yep.
Then you won't pay taxes and they won't pay taxes.
Correct. You get
on
to
that
deduct
money.
the entire amount, and they receive the entire amount tax-free.
Yeah, that's great.
So yeah, great way to do that and give charitably. One other thing people should keep in mind, and all of us should as we start to make donations, take a look at the corporation or the company that you work for. There are a lot of companies, I know larger companies typically do this, where they will match your charitable contribution to the charity of your choice. So they might have certain ones they'll do, but oftentimes you can get a match. So now you're really enhancing your gift to that charity as well by including your employer in that also. So
interesting.
Just something else to think about.
Yeah.
It doesn't do you good from a tax or a financial perspective, but it's helping out that charity. So something else to definitely consider.
All right. So what else do you have for us today? Does that about wrap it up?
That's getting close to the end, Tony. Those are
right.
kind of the main things I wanted to cover. Estate planning, charitable gifting, all important things if you're charitably inclined, there's a number of things you can do to benefit that charity as well as yourself and your family and your tax situation moving forward. So be sure and consult with your financial professional, your tax professional, your estate planning professional, and make sure you're doing things in the manner that is best for not only you, but for that charity as well. And we can make it a better place for everybody.
Well, that's great, Jeff. And I think the starting point for our viewers and listeners out there is to work with a financial professional, wealth manager, to get a plan in place and to look at where they're at and answer any questions for them. And so how do our listeners and viewers get a hold of you, Jeff, at Paladin?
Yeah, number one, call our office, 800 846, I'm sorry, I'm giving the 800 number, 651-842-8406. Just give us a call. Anybody would be happy to help you out. And remember, everybody should have an estate plan. It doesn't mean you need an expensive trust or all the other documentation, but have a plan in place that may include a will, maybe as simple as transfer on death deed on your home, and just keeping track of having your beneficiaries and all of your deeds updated and correct.
That's great. So listeners, pick up the phone, ask for Jeff quick, set up a consultation. There's no charge for that. What's that phone number one more time, Jeff?
651-842-8406.
All right. And that does it for today's episode of Paladin Financial Talk with our host, Jeff Quick.
Thanks, Tony.
Thanks, Jeff.